Welcome back. This is Sabrina, Monarch of Monarch Astrology and Magic of the Spheres podcast. We are in Pisces season. We just had a new moon in Pisces hours ago. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you some themes for the whole lunar cycle. Please, while you're here, like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're new here, and leave a comment at some point. Let me know what resonates for you, how this lands for you, any thoughts, or just say hi and where you're tuning in from. So a little bit about Pisces. Pisces as a zodiac sign represents liminal spaces, such as between life and death, or reality and dreams yet to incarnate into reality. So you have the daydreamer in fantasy, you have the mystic who's here but also not here. Pisces represents endings. This is something I don't think we talk about a lot with Pisces, but it's a big part of it. And the way that endings bleed into new beginnings. Every time we have like a lunar cycle, for example, the new moon and the moment before the new moon, it's not just like a perfect clockwork stop in time. There is kind of a bleeding. And same with every chapter of your life. You bring a little bit of the past into the new, and you also close some things and really tie up loose ends. So there's a give and take in terms of what from an ending makes it into a new beginning. In Pisces season, we could be looking at this ending, right, of particular ego structures, particular visions, ideas, and dreams, or particular iterations of personal patterns. So not all endings are sad, right? Some are very celebratory, some are bittersweet, but there's that theme of something is coming under review, something's coming to a close. Endings in Pisces can be experienced like the realization of the fullness of a cycle. So I wanted to think about the butterfly. Personally, the butterfly is a symbol that's been really important to me. And when I think about where I am situated in life in any given moment, the metaphor of like the caterpillar, the metamorphosis or cocoon stage, or the butterfly are really helpful for either situating like a whole season or maybe like a particular sub-season or process. And we go through this cycle many times, right? Every springtime, right? And like the spring, summer blossoming, and then the fall and winter. And so we go through that like process over and over again. And it really can be quite like magical how we open to that process and really let it happen. We can get stuck in the process in terms of not fully grieving or not fully going into descent or death, but chasing the high. But it's hard to get those highs if you don't do the whole cycle. But in the butterfly state, which I'm going to be comparing here to the sign of Pisces, you're flying and you're in some kind of full expression moment of the cycle. And it depends on what you ate, what you consumed, all the experiences you collected as a caterpillar, right? So, and then, when I think of the caterpillar, you can think of that book, The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle, and that like moment in life where we're quite consumptive, not necessarily in some terrible way, but just like developmentally, like we're taking in nourishment, we're having experiences, we're in like a montage scene kind of collection moment. And then you have the metamorphosis moment where you are going inward, you're totally melting and breaking down, like the butterfly in the cocoon, like its DNA melts and reforms. And then you emerge, right, in this butterfly state. And if we think about it with more complexity, we can imagine that the butterfly state is this full realization that is a consequence of all that was consumed, all the experiences, all the nourishment, all the developmental experiences, then how we processed it, and then how we're expressing it. So I want to also offer that this is really connected to the water trinity in the zodiac. We have Cancer as the caterpillar stage, the like nourishment, developmental experiences, Scorpio as the cocoon, transformative phase, and then Pisces as the butterfly, full realization and like liminal kind of heightened moment before the start of the new cycle. that we see in Aries, for example. This is my own reflection, by the way. This isn't like a pre-existing teaching comparing the water trinity to the butterflies developmental cycle. So when we bring it back to Pisces and we're in this kind of butterfly moment, and you can consider how that may be playing out in your life this season, it may not be super obvious. We're in the result of the journey and the full expression of it. And there's grief and praise there. There's spiritual insight and celebration. There may be confusion. And there's often realization, spiritual, emotional realizations, and a process of letting go, maybe forgiveness also. And then after this butterfly state comes death and rebirth, a new caterpillar phase, and the story begins again. So with Pisces, we're in that kind of like review and getting ready for the next cycle space. This is inherently dreamy, we could say. But what we see materialized in this final dream moment before the next cycle is full of material of the whole cycle. And maybe we forget that, or maybe we don't make all of the connections, or maybe we're confused, right? Like cause and effect, really understanding that is a process of wisdom. And so sometimes we don't understand those things until we're pretty far along and we're reviewing it and making sense of it. And we naturally have more insight than we had when we began. So if we're in a difficult situation or we have some kind of spiritual quandary, for example, one that really confuses us, we might gain the spiritual clarity on how we called this in, the ways that we called it in, and how we're transforming it through awareness and experience. And right, that's an invitation of personal responsibility, not an invitation of punishment and masochism, right? It's like being as sober as you can in a spiritual sense of really looking at how did I invite and call this in, even if I don't understand it, right? But how was I a participant? So as an example, say a person had a fear since they were a child of becoming like one of their parents. And in adulthood, in a peak moment of stress, of some kind of life drama, they see their fear coming true, that they're acting like that parent that they didn't want to become. That would be like a manifestation of a past fear, but now a reality, now the waking dream. And then while experiencing it as a reality, they may start to download compassion and understanding for that parent that they judged, and understand what factors and influence could lead a person now themselves to act in this way. And the heightened quality of this internal confrontation could naturally result in wisdom and transformation. And in these kinds of moments, we tend to look for emotional, spiritual, or existential clarity, right? Part of this is a choice too. Like we can be in the drama of our life and not be interested in introspection or seeing our place in it or finding greater wisdom and understanding. But Pisces, in traditional astrology is ruled by Jupiter. It is concerned with wisdom and understanding the bigger picture. And then that was an example of like a past fear materialized and becoming the waking dream and seeing like, wow, did I call this in or did I always know it was a potential? Because in that example, it's like we're made of our parents. And so we can become like them. Or maybe we were born into that family for a reason, or there was some level of resonance, right? So we can see the threads and the connections and see how we're part of this process of evolution. But let's look at it from the perspective of like a dream coming true. We can also experience fullness and endings related to cherished dreams and desires, like experiencing profound fulfillment or happiness that comes from having a wish granted. Say you're experiencing a kind of romantic love that you craved for years. And the intensity of this positive experience tends to reveal layers of where we didn't trust life before, where we were afraid it wouldn't work out for us, where we didn't know if our efforts would amount to anything. Maybe we remember all the trials and machinations that we went through. Maybe we feel so much compassion for that past part of ourselves who wanted something so badly and went in and out of believing it was possible. Maybe we feel pride that we believed in our dreams even before the proof of those dreams materialized. And in this experience of both meeting the wish granted and that wish fulfilled, we experience a kind of washing away or healing of the past. We might experience like a wave of profound trust or gratitude for life. So, of course, while we may have preferences that we want to be experiencing the high of like our dreams coming true, myself included, I love that part. Thinking about how whatever moment of like ripening and like think about the drama of life being in that butterfly moment, what led up to it? And in that space of it being so full, so recognizable, even if the images of our waking life confuse us, right? Like we're in that living question of our lives. To be reflective on what is the spiritual lesson is kind of the point with Jupiter, kind of the point with Pisces. And that may make the process sweeter as well for where we don't exactly like parts of the waking dream that we're experiencing. So a few more thoughts. Healing is a process, right? Like in this kind of like continual life, death, rebirth journey, we're at the end of the cycle often working with those parts that were like really hard to let go of. Like we didn't let go of them necessarily during the transmutation cocoon part. Maybe, we still brought it, like we're still works in progress. To be incarnate means that we're still working through karma and that we're still imperfect. And part of the process of being on a spiritual path, there can be this time where we really want to heal as quickly as possible or want to fix our problems as soon as possible. And we just want to kill them. We don't want to relate to that whole process of its unfolding. And so one way I'm thinking about this was that on a car ride recently, I had the kind of like flashback of a current hurt that I haven't been able to fully get over. I've had different waves of clearing it. And I noticed also how my life wasn't totally collapsed around it, that in the past, say when I was like 19 or something, even, points past that this particular pattern, this kind of hurt that I recognize could take up so much more space in my vision, like, to collapse around it. Whereas right now, I feel this fullness or this like exploration that's happening in my life, and that pain point is still there. Like I haven't been able to get rid of it, but it's not my whole vision, right? And I was feeling grateful for that. And I keep bringing, like as that particular pain point surfaces, I've started to reorient to it because I can't escape it. I've tried, right? Like I have started to reorient to it as like, what if this could be a moment of prayer, of surrender, of like really inviting the angels, asking God for support in transmuting it and being in a different, more creative relationship to that process unfolding. And in that, I have these moments, like these moments of grace where a layer comes off or something dissolves, and it's really beautiful. It's not my preference to be in that situation in the first place, but it is what it is. And so there's a way that when we can see the spiritual opening and unfolding and have the patience, have the compassion, have the collaboration and prayer with it, that some of our pain can become medicine with Pisces as well. And I'm bringing it into Pisces because part of Pisces is really navigating being a human and also being a spirit who's so much vaster than this limited human experience. And we can feel both, right? And so having that, that process of being with, like at a spiritual level, being with our embodiment, which can take longer to go through things than maybe we'd desire. And let's also flip this capacity to be with grief. to being with a dream, because being able to compassionately hold our own pain is important, but also on the other spectrum, like holding our joy, our pleasure, our dreams, our ideals, is another side of it. So the example, I'm going to use a really particular example to illustrate it, but feel free to expand it to something that's more personal or relevant to you. I've noticed a pattern with women specifically and their desire for partnership or relationship. I've seen it in myself, and I've seen it in a lot of women. And the different ways women hold this desire or dream. It's a whole journey to open up to just being with the desire and approving of it fully without splitting off from it, right? Going through this push-pull of, I want it so badly, I don't really want it, I'm fine. The shame of wanting it, the fear it will never happen, etc., right? And then the learning gradually of how to live in relationship to that desire, to not shut down the desire or one's life, like not putting your whole energy on hold, but still figuring out how to be open to that frequency and living in that openness. And I've noticed so many times that women are holding this desire. They're sure of it. Friends I talk to, clients, they're just so dropped into like, this is what I want. And a few months later, a year later, sometimes a little longer, they're happy. They're in partnership. They're receiving that which they called in. And it's beautiful and life affirming to see that, to see someone want something, to just know they want it and accept it. And a little bit of time passes, and sure enough, they have it. And both, those examples have some similarity in that when we're feeling our grief process or we're in some kind of pain, maybe we long for it to be over, right? Or in holding a desire or dream, we long for it to be realized. We're looking for time, to catch up to the vision. And it does. Like eventually we do heal our grief. Eventually we do find what we're seeking. And Pisces can be really that, both the faith of like it's happening and the spiritual moment to moment discovery of what that looks like and how to be in relationship to that process. So I hope you found this helpful, this meditation of the butterfly, and thinking about where you're experiencing that type of fullness or that type of realization, whether you like the waking dream that you're seeing projected before you, or you don't, or it's complicated, but to really feel into where is it expressing a kind of fullness of a part of you, or a part of your conditioning, or a part of who you've been. And in that moment of the full splendor of it, the butterfly wings, the flight, having that moment for spiritual insight, celebration, letting go, transcendence, planting seeds for the next cycle, etc. And if you want to think about this in terms of your intentions for the new moon, if that's what you like to do, go ahead and leave me a thought in the comments about what you are thinking about that you want to hold as an intention for the next cycle, this lunar cycle. I think I'll leave it there. Just thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I love to hear from you. So do leave a comment. On this YouTube channel, you can find more forecasts, more thoughts, kind of meditations, reflections like this, as well as videos that I'm going to be coming out with now more frequently about just like general education, natal astrology, things like that. You can also find my podcast, Magic of the Spheres, if you're not already listening on it, because this is on YouTube and Magic of the Spheres. But on my podcast, I share certain solo episodes that don't make it to YouTube. And I also share a lot of interview conversations with amazing and inspiring people. So I'll see you around next time. Thank you for watching.